Hey guys, what is up? If you're interested in learning languages and you've been on Facebook in the last 9 months or so, you've probably seen an ad for an app or a website called Language Zen. And if you've seen it more than a few times like I have, you probably even know exactly what it says. Using Duolingo, there's a faster way. Guess what that faster way is? Language Zen, so it says. Now, something about that strategy is just really annoying. I can't quite put my finger on what it is, but it seems I'm not the only one, because when you look at the comments, most of them are saying something about the fact that they're bagging out Duolingo in their ad, which just seems a little bit petty, backstabbing, and is just a little bit wrong. When pressed on the issue of how they come to the conclusion that it's faster than Duolingo, they then in the comments cite a study. They kind of know that no one's going to sit and read a study. It's actually 4 different papers. Now I went and looked at this study and I read through all of the 4 documents. It doesn't involve enough people, there are flaws in the methodology. Suffice to say, it's not a particularly intensive study and it doesn't really draw any hard conclusions about anything. So that's the first thing. Their study is, in my opinion, basically nothing more than some intellectual sand in your face so that you can get drawn in by their claim that it's 1.5 times as fast as Duolingo. Now, I might actually be willing to acknowledge that Language Zen is better than Duolingo and possibly even 1.5 times faster if I could see any proper data on that. The problem I have is with the rest of the stuff about Language Zen. So let's dig into that. So here we go, languagezen.com. Yes, oh, look at that. That reminds me of something too. This reminds me of something. This whole thing reminds me of Duolingo.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm just going to stop there for a second and say that it's no coincidence that that whole thing looks a lot like Duolingo. This is the annoying thing. When you go to the website, you're basically given exactly the same experience as you would be with Duolingo. Although, if I'm being honest, I actually prefer the look and feel of Duolingo. Then there's the sound. Okay, to be fair, it is actually a person, presumably a Spanish-speaking native, speaking the words, as opposed to Duolingo, which is a text-to-speech type function. Although it does work pretty well, but this is a Spanish-speaking person speaking, so that's a little bit better. That comes with the trade-off of having no sound and then a very obvious cut-in, just no sound at all, and then psh, estoy aquí. Psh. That's annoying. I actually prefer the text-to-speech. So there's that as well. Now, we haven't even come to the most annoying part of Language Zen, their choice of languages. Or should I say, their choice of language, their choice of Spanish. Okay, now I get that Spanish is a popular language to learn, particularly in the States. I totally get that, and I get why. However, it's still only one language out of at least a couple of dozen very popular ones. This wouldn't be all that annoying if their methodology was to run an ad on Facebook or somewhere else saying, "Are you learning Spanish? Try Language Zen." That would be fine. But that is not their methodology. Their methodology is to try and push themselves up by pushing Duolingo down. Now the thing about pushing Duolingo down is that you then invite a comparison between Duolingo and yourself. Now that comparison is going to very, very quickly reveal a big flaw in your system. You only have one language, Spanish. Whenever someone comments on this on Facebook, which is all the time, they come back with saying, "Oh, well, we're developing other courses, blah, blah, blah." Yes, you're developing them, but you haven't got them yet. Duolingo has them. Now, does Duolingo have every language? No, of course not. Do they have most of the most popular ones? Yes. Do they have a lot more than one? Yes. So let's compare the two on numbers of languages. Language Zen, Spanish. Duolingo, Spanish, French, German, Italian, Portuguese, Russian, Dutch, Swedish, Irish Gaelic, Turkish, Norwegian, Danish, Polish, Hebrew, Esperanto, Vietnamese, Greek, Ukrainian, Welsh, Hungarian, Swahili, Romanian, Hyberian, and Czech, and then a few more that are very close to done.
Ellos estudian.
Now there we go. Where have I heard that trumpet before? Language Zen, the trumpet was a little bit too obvious. Okay, so let's wrap this up. First, we have the ad on Facebook that puts Duolingo down in order to get yourself above it. That's going to start you off on the wrong foot with a lot of people to begin with, because a lot of people really like Duolingo, myself included. And the first thing you've done, our first introduction to your brand, is you having a go at Duolingo. That's bad. It's also bad tactically. What you're doing in the ad that you've paid for is naming your competitor. So then there's a good chance that people will go, well, what's Duolingo? And they'll check that out as well. Then there's the evidence for your claim that you can learn Spanish 1.5 times faster. If that's going to be your big claim, the big thing you go to day in and day out, which it is, then you better have some really good evidence for that, or at least a really compelling argument for that. But you don't. You have this hard to engage with evidence of PDF studies that then aren't very convincing even if your users take the time to read them. So that doesn't really work either. Then we come to the website and we find that the look and feel of the whole thing is very similar to Duolingo. You're claiming that you're better than them, but what you're really doing is riding on the back of their success. It's petty, it's a little bit unethical, and if you really want to one-up Duolingo, do something that they haven't done. And I don't just mean learn by songs and stuff that isn't really that revolutionary. I mean something proper, like have a language that they don't have. And that brings us to the last and most crucial point. Language Zen have set themselves up in this comparison against Duolingo. Let's just assume that Language Zen win in the comparison against Duolingo when you're learning Spanish. Let's just assume that for a second. But now let's assume you're learning any language that Duolingo has and Language Zen does not. Who wins then? And to be honest, that's probably the most annoying thing about this whole business to me, is that they call themselves Language Zen. It's in the name that they're this amazing language learning app, but then they have one language. That's just really dumb. And I know that when people ask them about other languages, they say, oh, we're working on this and we're working on that. Yeah, well, Language Zen, you're spending a lot of money on Facebook ads. You could be spending that money on developing more courses. So that's about all I have to say in this video. Now, I'm sorry it turned into a little bit of a berating of Language Zen. I did actually set out to review and compare them, but I just found that all in all, I disliked basically everything about Language Zen, except the things that it's blatantly ripped from Duolingo. So yes, I have harsh things to say about them. Language Zen, my advice to you, get some more courses, stop bagging out your competition on Facebook, start acting like adults. Anyway guys, I hope you've enjoyed this video. Do keep on with your language learning, whatever method you're using. Do you agree, disagree, love Language Zen, love Duolingo? Do post a comment. Post any other cool language learning apps you might know of. Like, subscribe and all that. I do plan on putting more language learning related videos up. I hope you've enjoyed this. Have a really cool day. See you later.